So before I put the game away, I just thought I would share a couple of final thoughts about this particular game and this particular battle. First of all, it was pretty fun and exciting the whole way through. It wasn't quite as one-sided as it might have looked like, particularly even after General Hope was removed from the field of battle. The British had this opportunity to do the evacuation, and it looked like they might be able to get enough units away to squeak out a victory. And it was only through some fortunate die rolls that the French were able to get some of their cavalry engaged and able then to cut off some of the British retreat. The other thing that was fun with the game was, of course, the naval units. That added a different element that is not typical in most of the games from the Bataille series. So that was an interesting thing. And somebody had commented on an earlier one about how realistic these are. The particular ships that are represented here had 100 or more guns on them. And, the smallest guns they had were 12-pounders, which are, I think, some of the larger caliber that the French have. So some of these French field guns are 12, and they're doing about 10 at long range. And these artillery companies represent maybe about 6 cannons altogether, 6 guns altogether. And so if you think about it, a broadside from one of these ships has got, about 50, 50 guns, some of them up, 12-pounders on the small side, 18-pounders, 24-pounders, 32-pounders. They've got some pretty serious ordnance on them. And so the idea that they might be doing, 60, 70 some odd points of damage at long range is not unreasonable. I think the only issue that I might have is the range being 24. That's a long way to go. So that was my only kind of question or complaint, maybe with the naval bombardment, but otherwise that was a fun element. This particular game, I think, has lots of possibilities for replay. And when you think about it, neither the British nor the French went on to a level. The British were pretty close, but they always managed to just stay one battalion away from tipping over onto level 1. The French took a lot of pounding. I think most of their units that were actually fully removed from the game were as a result of that shore bombardment. But they never got to the point where they were going to go onto a morale level either. One other interesting thing, given the fact we had all this cavalry for the French, I did not have a chance to do a single cavalry charge. The way things always worked out, I'd get the cavalry kind of close enough to do something, and either they wouldn't get their initiative, or the British would pull the chit first and then move away. And given how tough this terrain is and how it basically, cost 2 movement points just to move through a clear hex, meant that there was not a possibility to set up a cavalry charge as easily as otherwise. I think the only thing that kind of saved the French was that division of light cavalry, which was able to move around and kind of force the British division to make a longer trip to try to get to Corunna. Thinking about it afterwards, I might have tried to do maybe a forced march with those guys to try to get them to move a little faster, but I didn't think about it at the time. Most of these units are British Guard, so they have pretty good morale. So they probably, would have passed their morale test, and so they might have been able to get a little closer to the port, or maybe outrace that French cavalry. So next time in the future, if the same situation arises, I'll try to use that. The only other thing that I probably would have done differently is be a little bit more aggressive with the British at the beginning of the game, where they've got more forces here in this area opposite the French, and maybe they can deal some damage to this French division that's out in this part of the battlefield before the other French divisions start coming in over on this side, and then the cavalry starts to come in. So maybe just being a little bit more aggressive with them earlier would have been better than just kind of sitting back and when waiting for the French to attack. So altogether, a fun game. The 5th edition rules worked really well, which I was glad to see. This game was originally published with the 3rd edition rules. It did include some rudimentary command and control rules in the special scenario, but 5th edition worked really well, and it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching it. On to the next battle. If you enjoy these videos, click the like and subscribe button, and to get the most up-to-date notice of a new video, hit the bell button.